I would now like to call the September 28th regular town council meeting to order. Gary, if you do the honor.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we will now open the floor to public comment. If you have a public comment, please state your name and address and try and limit your comment to 5 minutes in consideration of all those other present. Seeing no comment in the room here. Anna, do we have any online? If you're online and you would like to raise your hand, you may please do so now. We'll give you 30 seconds to think about that. Okay, we'll give you 5 seconds thinking about that. All right, moving right on to item D, consideration of special topics.
So tonight we have Rose Ponte, our Economic Development Director, and she has 2 topics that she's going to talk about. She's first going to go on and show the council and the members of the audience, Explore Farmington 2.0. And then from there, she's going to just give a economic development update for the town council. So welcome, Rose, and come on up.
Evening, everyone. Thanks for the opportunity to tell you about all the upgrades we've made to Explore Farmington and also to do a recap of key economic development indicators. So we get a little bit of a snapshot of how Farmington is faring in this economy. So let's get right down to it. First of all, although Brian stole my thunder, I hope all of you know what Explore Farmington is and you've been on it. Yes?
Yes.
Good, that's a good beginning. Before we start to look at all the improvements that have been made to Explore Farmington, I thought I would just take a step back and give you a brief overview of how we got here. And in 2016, the EDC's marketing committee was tasked with upgrading all their marketing materials. And that group met and decided, you know, we better figure out who our target audience is. Let's figure out what we're going to be promoting, and let's figure out why we're going to be doing this. So after doing certain strategy sessions, we came up with the idea that really what we needed was to really start making and developing relationships with this community. And we needed to make connections. And who the target audience was, it was going to be our residents, our employers, our employees, and our visitors. So now that we knew who we wanted to speak with, we knew what we wanted to tell them, pretty much all the wonderful things that make this community as successful as it is, how are we going to get there? So the EDC approached 7 local marketing firms and had them give us proposals to get all this done, knowing that we do have limited staff and also limited financial resources for a brand new initiative. Well, Evan Dobis, who owns Civic Lift, was the person chosen to help us. And what his company does is it specializes in creating community engagement infrastructure. So what does that infrastructure do? It allows towns throughout Connecticut of all different sizes to really start to engage their community, to really start to make meaningful relationships. Because what did the EDC want to be known as? We wanted to be known as that single point of contact for communication. So if a business is looking to expand in Farmington, if a business is looking to come to Farmington, if there's a new resident trying to figure out what's the best pizza restaurant, we wanted to be that source of trusted communication. We wanted to make sure our communication was current, trustworthy, relevant, and really hyper local, because it was going to be interesting for our end users. So it's funny because Civic Lift has realized now, after doing these websites for other towns, that it's really brought about not only measurable economic growth, but it's also really brought vitalities to these communities. So we went and embarked on this, and in November 2017, we kind of did a little soft opening. We kind of put some feelers out. Some people started looking at it, and in January of 2018, we did a big unveiling at one of our business breakfasts, and yes, people loved it. People signed up for it. And you know that saying, build it and they will come? Well, we thought the hard part had been done, all the hard work. We built it. But did they come? They came, but they didn't stay. Why? Because already people were very used to getting their information from different online sources, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. All of a sudden, we were competing with all these other platforms. So we decided that the best thing we could do is really start to drive content and drive people to explore Farmington, because we were sure once they landed there, they would see its value. So we decided that summer that we were going to write a weekly email. We chose the summer because days are longer, people are looking to relax and there are more events happening. And we thought if we did a weekly email and mailed it out to our distribution list, then people would start to know what events were around and start using the site more. Little by little, we realized it was working. We realized it because a couple of times people would email me and say, my friend forwarded me your email. How can I get on your list? All of a sudden, we saw more and more businesses putting events on Explore Farmington because, as they told me, when you mention it in that email, our audience numbers go up. So we knew we were doing something right, and we knew it was a good idea. But the summer ended, and I thought my writing of weekly emails was over. But Kat advised me, well, before we stop these weekly emails, don't you think we should survey everyone and see what they think? And sure enough, everyone responded to the survey. A lot of people responded, and they said, please don't stop those weekly emails. They continued to grow. And then instead, when you can't beat them, join them. We said, okay, we're going to do our own Explore Farmington Facebook page. We're going to do our own Explore Farmington Instagram and even an Explore Farmington Twitter page. All of those efforts started to leverage one against the other, and the site started to grow. And we did start to be known as the in place to get your local information. But it really solidified in our minds the importance of this investment in this infrastructure when in March 2020, it seemed that in a blink of an eye, the world shut down. Now, all of a sudden, we needed information. Everyone needed information. And I spent that first weekend working with Evan Dobis, really taking our Explore Farmington site and being able to transform it into a COVID-19 response site. Now, all of a sudden, our businesses were able to tell the community what were their new hours. Our residents could understand who's offering testing. We could get the latest resources to our businesses, whether it was PPP loans or what safety guidelines they were going to be opening with. So the ability for this infrastructure to change that quickly was something that Evan had told us about, but we really saw it in action. Then what really was very rewarding was in April, Ion Bank called me and they said, everything that's going on in Explore Farmington and these weekly emails and the communication and the relationships you're developing, that's how Ion Bank does business. And we'd like to sponsor this initiative because we think it's that valuable. So those are two things that in my mind really told us we were on the right track. And sure enough, we took some of that sponsorship money and decided to reinvest it right into the site and make it even better because it was now almost 5 years old. Before we go to the site, let me just tell you some statistics. Last year alone, we sent out 77 emails with an open rate of 30%, which is pretty good, those open rates. My marketing guru over there is shaking his head yes. They were a total of 4,504 clicks. I'm amazed when I look at this reporting that everything is down to the click. We have 9,017 unique visitors and users of Explore Farmington in the past year. We have 452 registered users. Those registered users are people that want to promote their business and upload information about their events. 3,972 events have been submitted so far. That's almost 1,000 events a year. And we found out that 68% of the visitors come to the site directly, which really speaks to the fact that there is site awareness in the community. And 10% of people are coming to us from Facebook, which again verified in our minds that using social media really was that constant reminder that allowed us to keep growing the site. 38% of the visitors come from Farmington, 14 from Bristol, 10 from Granby, and 8.5% from Avon. And events, when you'll see here, 50% of the users really spend most of their time right on the events page, which is not, it's very not surprising at all because most people want to find out what's going on in town. So our Facebook page more than doubled this year from 9,168 likes or friends or whatever you measure it to 22,445. And Instagram reached 3 times more people this year alone. Last year we had 816 followers and now we have 2,518. So all those numbers means that yes, the community is using it, it is valued, and it's doing a great job. So let's go look at Explore Farmington 2.0. So what we did was, you can see right on the top, we made sure that we had joined the newsletter. That's very important because when you join that newsletter, that gives us your direct email. And now that email address allows us to communicate with people who have told us they want these emails. So we're not stuffing lots of emails in people's inboxes that they don't care about. The landing page itself tells you exactly what this is supposed to do. It's supposed to help connect our residents and businesses. And then we have, if you scroll down, Anna, you can see that, excuse me, we've also added a very fast way to find the events calendar, our businesses, or our stories. The bottom part is our Facebook recent posts, and you can also look at some of the later posts too. We thought that was important because, again, we want to grow Facebook, we want to grow Instagram, and we want to leverage all these different communications channels with each other. So now let's look at the events. The events page section hasn't changed at all. But for those of you that kind of want to know the ins and outs, this particular page is very important for us because it allows everyone to upload their own events. We really don't have the staff to be able to upload and find out all these different events. But when people upload it themselves, if there's any type of a change in their schedule, of all of a sudden the event has to be moved virtually, they can go right in the site and edit whatever they've submitted. So that's a very important thing. When you go to the places map, we've had, I think, over 400 places uploaded to the places map. And there you can look, let's say if somebody wants to find out all the restaurants in town, they can toggle off everything except for food and drink. And then right there on the map are all the food and drink restaurants. You hit any one, tap on any one of those, and sure enough, you'll see the Farmington Farm Truck. And you can visit their website and it goes directly to that business. We are just kind of the connector in town, but really we want that connection to be made between the consumer and the store, the resident and the business directly. We feel that is the best that we can do. When we go over to stories, those are really local blogs that we like to write about. Ion Bank is that first one. They do a monthly column. I've told various people that they can also do columns. So anybody who likes to write and write about things that are happening in town, I welcome them to be authors. We really just try to continually make this site interesting, because if it's very stagnant, you won't want to keep coming back. We want you to keep coming back and say, I wonder what else is new, what else is happening. But the real upgrades have been in the guides. We always had an Eat Local guide, Shop Local guide, and Stay Local. We've added a couple of more guides, but we've also made the guides look a little bit more interesting. At Eat Local, for example, we have all the different restaurants in town. We've added all their logos so people can see the brand and start to connect with that brand. And then at the very top of the page, you'll also notice that we have different filters. So if you want to know which restaurants have outdoor dining, you tap on the outdoor dining, and there it shows you at a glance, all those stores have outdoor dining. And so those filters make looking through a little bit easier. And again, that connection is made directly between that end user and the business. In addition to all those guides, we've added a gift card guide, and that really starts to, again, support our businesses. How can we best support our businesses? Any business who gives out gift cards, they have imported their information directly to the site. And again, view gift card, it goes directly to their site, a nice, great connection. And then under the guides too, we have the Farmington Center Walking Guide. As part of the Farmington Center Village Center Committee, we were tasked with doing a walking map. And so we have 3 different walking guides. The first one is historic places, and that was made possible by Betty Kuykendall, who gave us this inventory of magnificent detail with all different historic sites. We also have the Farmington Historical Society Freedom Trail for those people who want to take the Freedom Trail. And then we have the cultural institutions, because right there in Farmington Center, we have quite a great, within walking distance that you could visit, quite a number of different institutions. So that was a nice addition that we were able to add. When we go to resources, again, that resource page continues to evolve and change with the times. As many of you who may manage businesses or own your own businesses may know, that right now the hardest thing to find is a good employee. So we partnered with Indeed.com, and we have the Farmington Jobs Hub. Any job that's listed on Indeed.com that happens to be located in Farmington is now listed right here. We're still working on this because there's no filter yet. So you kind of have to scroll all the way through and find a job you may like. But if you go to the top and you just tap on Indeed, you are able to go directly to Indeed. And if you go to, are you able to do it? Oh, okay. And it goes directly to Indeed, so you can check other sites if you like. And also with Connecticut Hires, that's the Department of Labor's resource site for those people who need extra skills or want to change careers. So we added that to it as well as an additional resource. I'll wait till Anna gets back. Okay, going back to resources. We have resources for business, and those are resources that go directly to the sites, whether it's a state site, whether it's an SBA site, the Connecticut Recovery Bridge Loan Program. So whenever something is coming up that's a resource for business, we list it on this site. So this site also is always evolving and changing. After that, we also link to our own local economic development site, which is our Choose Farmington. And that site is loaded with demographics, resources, again, for businesses. And so we try to put everything in one location. So instead of having to look at millions of websites or scour different newspapers and things of that, we can all find something right in one location, which we thought was very important. Also under resources, we worked with our racial equity task force, and they had said how they really would love for us to have more businesses that are minority-owned, women-owned businesses. So what we did, we researched and added all these different programs. There are federal programs, state programs that help those entrepreneurs and hopefully entices them to relocate right here in Farmington. I think the other resources we have are healthcare resources, which just points out CDC and our Farmington Health District, and also puts some major hospital healthcare industries that we have there. And then the final resource at the bottom, how to help. And that one, again, we continue to change it. When we first put this up, I think the first a resource that was listed, How to Help, was Feeding America. And we decided instead, let's make it super local. And we start off with the Farmington Food Pantry. We also have how to donate blood right here at the American Red Cross, which is right on Farmington Avenue, how to make a mask. Again, trying to find those resources that people are looking for. So overall, those are the upgrades. We can always be changing them and trying to find new ways to do things. And I thought maybe if anybody has any comments or questions, we can do this now and then finish up with the data.
Right. Questions, Brian?
Just one question, which number one, I think that is just absolutely spectacular.
Oh, thank you.
I just love watching the growth and expansion of our audience and of the content on Explore Farmington. Because I remember when we started it, how wonderful it was and how we struggled to get people on board. And I just love seeing the growth. So congratulations to you and your team for doing that.
Yeah, it's an effort by a lot of different people, that's for sure.
Absolutely. One question I had though was, and we talked about this over the weekend.
Yes.
Because we have so many people going there, is it possible, or is it even, is it possible to put maybe town news? And by that, I mean, if we have road closures or things that the town wants the citizenry to know about that they may not see or always get on something like maybe the Patch or go to a paper and not see. Can we put news items on it like that?
Well, we have been putting, I thought about that after you and I talked during the road race. And we do, every Monday, we do all the weekly town meetings that are going to be taking place. So we do a post on that. And then I thought about it. And when we do have different road closures, we have, like, for example, when we had the Route 4 here closed, we made sure that we wrote a story about it. And then we posted it on our Facebook and Instagram page. And during Stormy Isaias, we had a daily email that went out giving me updates. You know, when is your power going to be restored? What's happening? So we have done that on occasion. And I think perhaps the best way to do it is through those stories, through the blogs, to be a little bit more consistent. Because I think you're right. People do want to, you know, they're craving that news, and we don't really have a local newspaper just for Farmington. So adding some news items is something we'll definitely consider.
It just seems like a perfect vehicle for that.
Yeah.
Rose,
Yes.
maybe where that could go is on, like, because I get nervous because that's what a lot of the website is, but it gets lost in the town's website. But
Yes.
maybe like on the front page, because on the front page of our town website, we have like the top news items. Maybe we could mirror those
Yes.
top news items. When those change, they go onto your website
Exactly.
too. So
Yeah.
it's sort of the
No,
same
that's a
thing,
great idea.
something along those lines.
Yeah, we want to make it front and center so people, you know, it can't be hidden.
And I love how you integrate everything. And that's just another perfect example of integrating information, put it in the
Yes.
clearinghouse. Excellent job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
And I appreciated the news when you did, as you said, you had those road closures, you had the updates during the hurricane. So
Yeah.
it was a great start on that, but continuing through would be.
And, you know, when we first did this Explore Farmington infrastructure, we didn't realize, you know, we didn't anticipate all of that. But when we were hit with COVID, we were hit with Stormy Isaias, boy, were we happy we had it. It was really a great investment.
Other question?
Yes.
Good.
Oh, sorry. I'm not the one supposed to be calling on you.
No problem. So I definitely echo Ryan's praise. I think you and Evan and others that have been involved have done a great job with the website. It was amazing to
Thank
see it as a COVID resource during the height of the pandemic. And it's amazing to see all the growth and people going to the Explore Farmington website. My question is on kind of like the different parts of the website, the events, the places, the stories, the guides, and the resources. I know you were talking about clicks before. Do we know like which one of those sections gets the most clicks?
The most clicks is events.
Is events.
So
Okay.
people are spending more than 50% of their time looking at events.
Mhm.
And believe it or not, some of the stats even tell us how long they spend. And I guess they're spending over 30 minutes on some of them. And I think that the way I go on some of these sites, it's 30 minutes because it's on my laptop and I go answer the phone or something. But I do think that it does, you know, people are interested and they'll look, they'll go into it, you know, right to the events, read it. So it is interesting to see, but it does show us that people are using it and staying on it for a little bit of time.
That's great.
Thank you, Rose, and I'll echo the comments too, but I think just one thing that I know, does West Hartford do they have a sort of a community marketplace where you could sell things? Is that something that we could do on that, or?
You know what? I think that might be difficult.
Okay.
To start getting involved in the buying and selling and all of that. I know Facebook has different, each community has their own buy and sell type thing. I don't know if that's really something we could do. But West Hartford has something that I'm kind of envious of, and that is WeHa, which is just their West Hartford kind of online newspaper source. And it's really quite robust. That is something I would love to be able to do, but something more to those lines. A marketplace, we might be able to refer to it and drive people to some of those marketplaces, but it's a little bit difficult because I would never want to endorse something that I'm not 100% positive of. So there's a little bit of a, hesitancy there.
Okay, great. No, thank you.
Other questions? Okay. Well, I'm just going to say a couple of things. One, I love the maps. Obviously, I've been to some of your maps. It's great. It's great to see where the restaurants, where the businesses are, but also the historic maps and discover what we might not have realized and discovered in the past. It's great to have it all there. The businesses. Can a business add themselves? Is that how it generally works out?
They add themselves to the places map.
Okay.
And then many businesses many times will call me and say, I don't know how to add myself. So it allows me to kind of engage that business a little bit more. So there's another benefit to it. So they add themselves to the places map. And then when we did the guides, we really wanted to make sure the guides were as complete as possible. So we did the guides internally in-house.
Great. So there's some outreach also to the businesses.
Oh, absolutely.
Great. I will focus on some of the comments you made earlier as far as the outreach. During COVID, you really became an essential business for our businesses because so many of them needed the assistance that you gave them to help them work their way through the uncharted waters of PPP, of outdoor dining, of outdoor seating, when it then became a parking lot, how they actually approached TPZ to have these conversations. So thank you for all that. It was tremendous to have it up and running before that. And I'm just excited to see how it grows going forward.
Yeah, I am too. It's kind of like Kathy says, it's my baby.
Yeah.
And I just want to thank you also for taking some of that information from the Racial Equity Task Force and implementing it into the program and finding those resources for people.
Oh, I couldn't believe how many resources there were when I did the research. It was wonderful to see. So I hope it's just another tool that helps us get to our goal.
Well, you're starting it, so thank you very much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Absolutely.
All right, so Rose, now I think you're just going to do an economic development update.
Let's do a little economic development update and setting it up. When I told you guys that, remember that communication, that marketing committee was starting to update their marketing materials. So after we did Explore Farmington, we really did update those marketing materials, and we came up with a logo, we came up with a tagline, we came up with colors. It was a wonderful exercise for the Economic Development Commission. And one of the things we did was we took all that information and then we made our own economic development website within our town website. And if you notice on the bottom there, Farmington, live, work, play, prosper. Most towns can all say live, work, play, but we added prosper because we really do feel that we have the resources right in this community that we can prosper. We partnered with Nutmeg TV and they did our drone for us. So that drone that you're looking at right now, it really gives you a good visual. Now imagine if you're a company thinking to relocate from abroad. We actually had a company relocate from Italy, the Italia Rosa company, and they purchased New England airfoils. I had dinner with them, and one of the presidents said, you know, when we went, I think it was at the Paris Air Show, we're from Italy. The United States is just a big country. We don't know Connecticut, North Carolina, Michigan. To us, it's all the same. When they went to the Paris Air Show, they went to the Connecticut booth, and the governor told them about this building that was being underutilized right in Farmington. They ended up moving to Farmington because of it. They never knew anything about Farmington. So when you look at our website and you look at this drone footage, it's for those people that maybe are brand new to Farmington. They've just moved here, or it's maybe a site selector who's looking for a big company that is thinking to move to Farmington, and now they can see all the different assets that we have. And visually, I'm a visual learner. So to me, being able to see Farmington is almost more important than just all the data that we're going to look at. So let's look at live, work, play, and prosper, and look at some of those key data and see how they're doing. Before we do that, this is kind of our mission statement for economic development. And I look at that quite a bit whenever I have a developer come and talk to me and pitch an idea that they're bringing this company, or somebody wants to do something that's great for Farmington. I look to myself and I ask myself, so what is it that I'm supposed to be doing? I'm supposed to be promoting the growth of the tax base through programs and processes, retention, expansion, and attraction. But the most important sentence here is while maintaining the character of the community. I feel that that's the delicate balance that we need, because it's not just about economic development. It's not just about not having development. It's really marrying both those things. How do we still keep all those special components that make Farmington who Farmington is, while at the same time allowing for that growth? So I always like to start off whenever I'm doing a project with that, just to keep me focused on what's important. So let's look at Live. Live, we have a community that is the envy of many communities. We have a great school system, we have low taxes, we have great amenities and quality of life. And now we have economic data, especially from the past year, that's really proving that this is a hot market. We were one of the top 10 towns that grew the most in the past year. The Hartford Courant listed us, which I was very happy about. This data comes from us, from William Ravis. They do monthly local marketing insights that they give me. And as you could see there, this is August 2020, and there were 40 sales, and that was up 33.3% from August of 2020 as compared to August of 2021. Our medium sale price has gone up 19% versus last year at this time, for a median price of $471,000. And we only have, well, as of August, this number of 75. I'm sure it's a lot less. Probably Joey could tell us. And again, it's down even from last year. So when you look at it, 100% of the homes sold did it within 90 days of listing, and 95% of those houses sold over their sale price. So that really goes to show that it's a hot market, that people want to live here. And a few years ago, the residential market was not in such high demand. So we're really seeing, although residential houses is up throughout the country, it's nice to see that it's also happening right here in Farmington. So the next slide is really about work. And I know most of you know this already, but we have a thriving business community, and it's a very diverse stock of businesses. We go from Fortune 500 headquarters to small mom and pops to everything in between. And how do you meet all those different needs? That's something that we work really hard on. And the employees, this is pre-COVID, we had 30,000 people, double our population, come to Farmington daily, Monday through Friday, to work here. So to house all these people, we have one of the largest inventories of office space, 4.4 million square feet. And we have close to 2.5 million square feet of industrial space. So how are we doing with all that space? Those are key indicators as well. The office space, that's a space that I'm always concerned about, especially now because we have such a large inventory, and with this new, new normal that is going to be a hybrid work remote, what is going to happen to our parking lots? Many times I'll drive around, and the first time in the spring of last year when every parking lot was empty, it really, was an eye opener. Now there are more cars in the parking lot, but we are far from full. We still are holding our own though. Our rate last year at this time, we were at 5.5% vacancy rate. We are now at 7.5%. Again, many of these leases are leases that are in place. Companies are not walking away from their leases yet. They're still trying to figure out, do we need this much space if less employees are coming? Or are more employees going to come? Or do we need this much space with less employees, but they need to have social distancing? Nothing has really been determined yet. So this is a story that's yet to be told, but I'm keeping my eye on it because we may need to have perhaps a panel discussion and a forum for our bigger property owners who have a lot of office space. What are the trends? What do they need to know? What kind of amenities are they going to have to offer to entice those leases? Because we don't want them to have vacancy. So that is something I'm keeping my eye on. But still, if you notice on that graph, even though our vacancy rate is increasing, we had much higher vacancy rates in 2011. So we're not there yet. Time will tell what will happen to these leases. Moving on to the industrial space, you can tell our manufacturers never closed during the pandemic, and you could see that there's pretty much very little in terms of industrial space that we can attract. There's lots of different projects that are calling for industrial space, manufacturing space, but we really don't have much inventory. So the key to this is going to make sure these manufacturers continue to be supportive and that they have shortages right now with supply. Some of them, they might have those different challenges with transportation. So all of them are in the same boat nationally. Our strategy with manufacturing is making sure if we have older buildings that need to be updated and need to be brought to more efficiency, that we're willing to do that for them so that every building we have is being used to its highest and best use. So moving on, we're going to be looking, I didn't do anything about play because we all know we can play a lot in Farmington and we have great amenities. So I skipped that, but I did go to start to look at Prosper. And if you look here at the commercial tax growth, it is climbing. And, when you have a big grand list, even a little bit of growth is a lot in dollars. And so that is consistent growth, and increases are very good. And then looking at that percentage that the commercial tax base contributes to the overall, it continues to climb, and we're up to 33% now. And that is huge. I live in Harwinton, and I think residents contribute 99% to the grand list. We're very lucky here that that burden is not shouldered only by our residents. Another idea of prosperity. So then we start looking at the mill rate, because that's one of those tools in my toolbox that I have. So when a company who's thinking to come to Farmington says, what are you going to do for me? What kind of incentives do you offer? What kind of a tax abatement are you going to give me? And I always like to say, oh, you'll get your tax abatement on your July 1st tax bill, because we have the lowest tax rate of all the surrounding towns. You won't find a better value for your money. And sure enough, when you look at all the towns in the Farmington Valley, we are the lowest. So that's always music to the ears. You go back to those office property owners, they tell me that many times they will win out on a lease because their lease can be less expensive than a lease in a surrounding town because our taxes are lower. So it makes a big difference. Then we started to look, well, how about the Hartford region? There's about 40 towns in the Hartford region. We used to be the lowest, but then there's now 3 towns that are just a bit lower than we are. But when you look at those towns, you have to ask yourself, they're smaller towns. Are they delivering the same type of town services that we are? Windsor Locks has a very thriving economic development community in and of itself because they have a lot of commerce also. But overall, we're doing quite well. The one that worries me a little bit is I look at Southington and they're getting, maybe we're getting close to their mill rate. So I want to be able to still say we're one of the lowest. So something to think about. And then finally, when you compare our mill rate to all those towns which we compete with for share of the region's business activities, and again, we are the lowest. And in all conversations, people do look for that. At the end of the day, the dollars and cents speak volumes. So moving on, what are some future considerations that I'm kind of focusing on? And again, it's that uncertainty that is still with us. Nobody likes uncertainty, that's for sure, but we definitely don't like it in business. So that uncertainty that is still with us is something that, causes us some consideration. How are we going to deal with it? Our large office inventory and this new remote work model, how do we know what it's going to be? We don't. But it's my opinion that I think there is such value in face-to-face interaction and in collaboration. I do think that perhaps for the immediate future, there will be quite a bit of remote workers, but I think overall, there is going to be a return to the office and they'll find value in that. So I think I'm hoping that that's the case. Preserving our character, very, very important to all of us, but also sometimes preserving our character will limit in future growth. And again, it's a balancing act, but we have to put that under our list of consideration. Maintaining excellent services while keeping our taxes low is another big consideration. I know myself, I usually am sticker shock when I pay my grocery bill, my gas bill, everything has gone up. I just paid to fill my tank of oil. It cost me a heck of a lot more than it did last winter. So with all those costs across the board, we're going to feel it on the municipal side as well. So trying to keep that balance again. But it's not all bad, because I'm of the opinion that when we are under these challenging, uncertain times, this is a time that gives us an opportunity to look at things from a different lens, to look, it's not always that's not always how we used to do things. It makes us look at something differently. It makes us see opportunity. It makes us work more creatively. So I'm hoping that those opportunities are really in our future. And when we look at redevelopment, it's the ability for us to look at some of our structures and understand, are they at their highest and best use? And if they're not, what do we need to do to get them there? And then I love to end on a positive note. So some bragging rights, and that's all our strengths. We continue to maintain that AAA bond rating, which is not many towns can brag about having that. We continue to have a thriving business community. My phone still rings every day with someone having a new idea about bringing to town. We have continued grand list growth. Our housing market continues to be on the upswing. We had that 5% population growth, which is great. And we still have the 3rd lowest mill rate in the Hartford region. So those are all great things to brag about. So we'll continue to do our best to keep Farmington the economic leader that it is. And if anyone has any questions,
Thank you.
ask away.
Are you seeing any trends coming out of the West as far as office space being redeveloped or turned into different things?
You know what? I just read an article today that Texas has started to see a lot of employees come back, which surprised me because Texas still has pretty high COVID numbers. But they are seeing that, they are starting to have more in-person meetings, but nothing yet that's really, I know that the tech companies continue to be really hot and heavy on office space. Apple just bought, I think, a very large purchase that was reported today at Silicon Valley. So if that's, if we're a little bit behind them, it looks like they're still investing in large properties. I know even in New York City, Google just did a huge investment in having a brand new office building in the heart of New York City. So those investments tell me that yes, it's going to change again. At least I hope so.
Thank you.
Chris?
Yeah, thank you, Rosa. And just again, I'd like to say it's nice to know we're in good hands. I mean,
Oh,
I can't
thank you.
thank you enough for your presentation, just your enthusiasm when you present to us. It's just wonderful. I was just thinking, being on the building committee and we're trying to get the high school referendum passed, and even some of my neighbors across the street said, if you don't pass this, we're leaving. And I know you don't have any data or anything, but anecdotally, have you heard anything out there saying, hey, we're really happy the school passed, that's being reflected in the community, the businesses and everything else?
I know that a lot of people were thrilled, and just in different, gatherings that I go to, even in different regional, like with other economic developers are like, hey, you guys passed it this time. So it was a lot of talk when it didn't get passed. And then there was just as much talk as, oh, that's great, you passed it. I think that it's really, education is one of the driving factors of having a community not only that is thriving, but having a business community that wants to move here. Many times when back in my first years in economic development, we were always thinking of site selectors and who's making the decision. And most of the time, I always thought it was the CEO, but most site selectors told me, oh no, it's not the CEO, it's his wife, because they want to make sure the kids are going to a good school system, that they have good stores to shop in, that the kids have great amenities. And that is probably true. It's the family, because they want to, if they're going to relocate their business, they want to make sure they're doing it to a place that has good quality of life. And we have both. We have great businesses here that they can partner with, but then we also have that community. I really think education is a key. And we're blessed with such a good school system.
And Chris, if you remember at our last building committee meeting, I thought it was interesting, but so true, is that we were interviewing owners reps, and not owners reps, construction managers. And a bunch of them said that the school is such an economic driver for the businesses around, just the school project itself, and that they're all looking to get contractors that are local and things like that. So just the school itself is an economic driver.
Absolutely. And there's been a lot of studies about that, not only when a good school system, what it does to the whole community, but even the building of a new school, that attracts a lot of people too. The project itself, like Kathy just mentioned.
No, thank you.
Other questions?
I got one. Hi, Rose. Thanks for the great presentation. Speaking of repurposing, what is the trend now for space like the mall? Example, Lord and Taylor, there's talk about maybe turning it into elderly housing or healthcare facilities like that. Is that possibly still a trend, or is maybe now brick and mortar possibly going to bounce back to those spaces? With any buzz on those types of?
There are new trends, and about 3 years ago, the trend was to take these older retail malls and really transforming them. And a lot of them, there was one in Long Island in particular, and what they did was they recreated a village. So they made, apartments like townhouses, and they made plazas, and they made open space, and then they sprinkled in a few stores. It almost reminded me of Walt Disney World, making it a little town. And that seemed to be the trend in the old, repurposing these older malls. A great example is in West Hartford, the old Sears, and how they repurposed that. So the trend was to make it housing. When Lord & Taylor approached us, they wanted medical office space. They didn't, I thought they were going to ask for housing, but they did not. They asked for medical office space. And I was really thrilled that TPZ was very welcoming to the idea. And they recognize that an empty 100,000 square foot structure is not going to do anyone any good. But bringing medical office space, I know in Blueback Square, there is a large medical office space. And, you know, the thought process, there are more and more medical offices being in retail settings. They say that people might come in, have a treatment or a procedure, and they want to go and have lunch or then do a little bit of shopping. And so that's why over at the Five Corners, we ended up having a doctor group move there. I was very surprised. And yet it's that is the trend, to really start marrying the medical and health arena with consumer products, you know, consumer activity. So I think that's where that is headed.
Thanks, Rose.
Great. Good question. Just one more with the changes and the problems, certainly in drawing in new employees for our current and potential future. How do you see the benefit of our trails and walkability in town affecting all that?
Well, I think I shared with you one day, or perhaps I shared with Kathy, I was over having a business visitation over at Trump, and he explained to me, one of their Trump leaders said, you know, we're trying to get the best and the brightest to come and join us, and we can match anybody's salary. But you know what? We can't match that cool factor. And they said, you know, New York, Boston, they have this cool factor that all these young professionals want to go to. And that is true. But then they finished it by saying, we can't tell you those candidates that we really want, we'll bring them to the Farmington campus and we do the interview on the trails. And 9 times out of 10, those candidates are like, this is the coolest thing. And so those trails really make a big difference. And I think it's an amenity. I know that I've spoken many times to a lot of employees that are in our bioscience corridor, and many of them are asking me, why, you know, we'd like to ride our bikes here. You know, how they really wanted more sidewalks in that area. They'd love to get out of their, you know, lab or out of the hospital and be able to walk to the different, you know, to butchers and bakers. They don't want to get in their car. So I think it's that feeling of being outdoors, getting out of the office. So if we can improve pedestrian connections and walkability, I think it really will be an amenity that will continue to bring success.
Great. Thank you. Okay. Are there any other questions?
That's it for Rose.
Okay. Thank you, Rose. Really
Oh,
appreciate
my
it.
pleasure.
Thanks,
Rose.
Rose.
Thank you, Rose.
Yeah.
Before we move to item E, I must apologize. I was remiss at the beginning of the meeting. I was intending, and we will have it now, to just have a moment of silence in support of Officer O'Donnell, who was injured in a terrible work-related accident. So if everyone could just take one moment of silence. Thank you, and we wish you well for a full recovery. Now moving on to item E, new business.
Make a motion that Scott Halstead be appointed to the Town Planning and Zoning Commission for the balance of a 4-year term, beginning immediately and ending January 2022.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
And I'll just add that Scott is currently serving as an alternate on the TPNC.
Great. Okay, hearing no other discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Congratulations, Cap.
No executive session.
No executive.
No executive session this evening. So before we move on, I will leave you with a quote from Emily Bronte. Every leaf speaks bliss to me, fluttering from the autumn tree. With that, I will ask for a call for adjournment.
I make a motion that we adjourn the September 28th, 2020 2021 Farmington Town Council meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.